Hi everyone, this is Reki. Due to some circumstances beyond my control, I have been forced to remove and then reinstall the mods that I was using. I was experiencing a bug and it caused me to lose some data, so what I decided to do was delete out all of my old saves and restart fresh with a new guide series we're going to call On Point and West Point. And if you got the chance to see any of my debug videos or any of my other curiosities videos where I put up a small amount of video footage on a particular subject, you may or may not have seen me working my way towards Twiggy's and using Twiggy's as a safe house. And Twiggy's has become my favorite location for a safe house in West Point because it has many things going for it, which we will discuss as we get there. So I thought I'd go ahead and I would start this new series called On Point and West Point. And we will start from the very beginning where I put together my new game. And in all fairness, since we could not nail down the bug in vanilla mode, I have gone and re-enabled the mods that I enjoy using the most. And here is my list of mods. I tend to use a lot of vehicle mods because I really like working with mechanics and I like having a large selection of trucks and other vehicles to work with. So I have a lot of the military vehicles in play here. I have Brita's armor mod pack. I have the literacy mod, which allows you to adjust how quickly your reading skill, it gives you a reading skill and it allows you to adjust how quickly that reading skill levels, and the leveling of that reading skill then allows you to read more quickly. I also have True Actions installed, which allows you to sit and lay down on various different bits of furniture, vehicle recycling, Viperell's recycling center, and vehicle spare parts, the weapon condition indicator, and I also happen to be pretty fond of Supercart, which can sometimes be a little buggy, so we're going to see how that goes. What I typically do at the start of a new game is I go to Custom Sandbox and I build a new game from the ground up. Since we'll be starting in West Point, I'm going to choose West Point. And then I will typically adjust the sandbox options. But my latest version, which is the 8.8 test very low zombie count, has been the one that I've been using the most. Prior to the latest update, I was getting fewer zombies than I currently am, so I may actually tweak some of these settings at some point in the future. But I'm just going to go through these screens really quickly in case you want to follow along with me. You're welcome to. And anything in yellow is something that I have adjusted. So I've adjusted zombie count here. I've adjusted day length to 3 hours here. I've adjusted house alarm frequency, locked houses frequency, food spoilage, refrigeration effectiveness, rotten food removal, and the world item removal list. And I've adjusted erosion speed. I've adjusted helicopters and meta events. I've adjusted vehicle stories chance and the annotated map chances. Loot rarity, I've set everything to either normal or common. I've changed the XP modifier, allowed for the starter kit, given 100 free trade points, made player built construction strength very high, rear vulnerability low, and I have allowed for multi-weapon hit because I happen to be fond of melee weapons, and this makes melee weapons a lot more fun in my opinion. I have allowed for the mini map and all known on start. Sometimes I like to play with that off, sometimes I like to play with that on. I have changed some of these vehicle settings: recent survival vehicles, chances gas, initial gas, general condition, car alarm frequency, and players damaged from crash. Some of the zombie lore, I've reduced their speed, their strength. I've turned off infection mortality. There's plenty of ways to die in this game. You don't need to die from the infection as well. changed whether they can crawl under vehicles, what their memory, sight, and hearing is like. I have disabled their ability to damage player construction so my outer wall remains intact. And I have turned off drag down and fence lunge. And I've also adjusted some of their other settings like their population multipliers, their start and peak multipliers, their respawn hours, how long it takes, how far they'll travel, what their biggest group size is, and so on and so forth. The literacy mod I usually leave at all of its base traits, its defaults. Vehicle recycling, I usually click parts must be uninstalled before dismantling. And that's about it. If you want, feel free to pause at any points where I was showing a screen and copy my settings if it matters to you. There's a couple things I may go back at some point in time and I may change. I may make some of the settings a little more difficult. I'm not as interested in dealing with the zombie hordes as I am in dealing with a world in which survival is difficult and you start with nothing. So that's kind of the slant that I take for my own personal settings, and I like to build a lot. So a lot of times I'll start either unemployed or park ranger depending on what I'm feeling like. I'll also start sometimes as an electrician or an engineer, because the engineer gives you electrical and carpentry to start with. The electrician just gives you electrical. But I have a previously saved character set up for unemployed that I'm really enjoying. I take most of the buffs that you cannot get once the game starts, and I put them all in here until I have all the buffs that I want. And then I go back and take a few skills with the points that I have left. So I have cat's eyes, dexterous, fast reader, outdoorsman, baseball player, brave, graceful, inconspicuous, lucky, resilient, amateur mechanic, brawler, eagle-eyed, fast healer, fast learner, hiker, keen hearing, organized, thick-skinned, athletic, and strong. And at some point in time, I will go over with you guys why I choose these things if people are interested, but for the moment, not so much. And that leaves this panel full of some nice benefits to start with, which gives her some strength and some ability to work with blunt weapons, and a little bit of a heads up on mechanics. It doesn't give her any electrical, which is a bit difficult to level, but I'm enjoying the way it plays anyways, so we're just going to go with it, and we're going to hit next. And I typically like to just go with whatever they start me with, as long as it's not too ugly. She's about to lose this hat, because I'm not overly fond of this hat. But I like to start them out as if they woke up from sleep or came from their job or whatever, and now they're in trouble. So we're going to start with Emily Gavin just the way she is, and just to be fun. I won't save her. Sometimes if I have a favorite configuration of weapons and armor, I'll save it. But in this case, we're going to start with nothing so we can work from the ground up. Alright, and as soon as we load in, I think we will call this particular video done. I'm going to try to keep these videos pretty short. Now, short is relative depending on how far we get along. They may stretch as much as 45 minutes or half an hour, but I'm kind of hoping to keep them in shorter segments and stop at what I consider to be reasonable stopping points, so that as we go along, you can learn some of the ways to handle the different situations that you're going to come across in this area. And often my hope is to do other guides. So I have plans for a riverside guide. I already have a location picked out there that I happen to be extremely fond of, and so going forward we'll have some guides from various different areas, and we'll hit each of the big areas on the map. At any rate, that's it for now, and I'll see you in episode 2 of On Point and West Point. Take care.